Giants began the season 0-2, while the Saints were 0-3. Both have only lost once since. This Sunday, they go head-to-head at the Superdome. Touchdown! Coverage begins at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The topics are hot. The discussion is heated. And we're on fire. The First Take Podcast starts now.
Here's what's coming up on the First Take Podcast. Will the Dolphins try to take Tom Brady out tonight? Plus, NBA legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar joins us to talk Kobe and the Lakers and much more. And the Thunder, already the best team in the West? We'll see. Let's get it. Hey, welcome into First Take. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will be with us in a few, so you know we'll be talking some NBA. Looking forward to that. Skip Bayless, Molly Kareem, Stephen A is in New York. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to ask you to do something you've never, ever done in the history of First Take. I need a one-word response to this question. Are your Mets done?
No.
And my response to that is yes. Next question.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure. After you pick
no,
them
you
to
can't
win the
talk
series,
anymore. You can't talk anymore. I said one word.
Turncoat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, guys. Let's get started. We kick things off with Thursday Night Football, an AFC showdown in Foxborough, and we all know the Finns have a ferocious pass rush, and former Patriot Rodney Harrison said on WEEI that he's concerned that the Dolphins' defense will try to take Brady out. Quote, you saw what defensive end Olivier Vernon did to Mariota, hit him low. Ndamukong Suh has a reputation for being dirty. Cameron is their best pass rusher. So if I'm concerned about anything, I'm concerned about Tom Brady taking a cheap shot from one of these guys. Skip. Should the Pats be worried Brady could go down?
Molly, Stephen A., yeah, they should be worried. Obviously, as maybe the world's leading Tom Brady fan, I'll be the first to admit I am concerned about this game. And I'm certainly not, before I launch into my real answer here, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to suggest that this is going to be any kind of bounty bowl or bounty game, that the Dolphins would have any kind of incentives for their players to knock Tom Brady out of the game. But we know that once Dan Campbell took over, that the culture has changed, as he said. And I'm pretty sure that Dan Campbell and his coaches are making it very clear to his pass rushers, starting with Mr. Suh, that it would behoove them to rough up Tom Brady. I'm sure they wouldn't at all mind if they did knock him out of this big division game. When Dan Campbell did take over the Dolphins 2 games ago, I remind you, Stephen A., that he said, and I quote, we're going to play by the rules, but we're going to walk that line. And I take that to mean they were going to play in the gray area of the NFL rules. And, of course, in Campbell's first game at Tennessee, Titans coach Ken Wisenhunt condemned as dirty the shot that Olivier Vernon took on Marcus Mariota that knocked him eventually out of that game. And obviously Mariota wound up with a sprained knee. I did not think it was that dirty of a hit, but still, it was the first indication that Campbell is changing a culture in which during practice they run the Oklahoma drill that a lot of veterans would just say no to. They've conducted rugby-style scrums in practices just to improve their physicality. I don't need to remind you that Mr. Suh is widely regarded with a well-earned reputation of being the NFL's dirtiest player. And meanwhile, allow me to remind you, Mr. Smith, that Tom Brady is protected by what has to be the most inexperienced offensive line in all of pro football, and I don't think it's even close. And if you'll give me a second to run through this patchwork of no names just for the edification of our viewing audience, Stephen A., the only bona fide offensive lineman up in front of Tom Brady is a right tackle that is now forced to play left tackle. That's Sebastian Vollmer, who does have 73 NFL starts. Then across the rest of the line is the immortal Josh Klein with 11 NFL starts. The undrafted rookie David Andrews at center, who's now started 6 games because they played 6. Trey Jackson at right guard has started 3 games, and Cameron Fleming has started all of 3 games. That was your starting lineup against the number 1 defense in the NFL last Sunday, the Jets. The number 1 blitzing defense in the NFL, the Jets. And somehow, some way, they held up. in part because Tom Brady is getting rid of the football faster than any quarterback in the NFL. 2.5 seconds on average, the ball is gone from his hand. But tonight, the imperative of the Dolphins clearly will be to get to Tom Brady, knock him around, as you have suggested in the past. Make him tap dance like the late, great Gregory Hines in the pocket. So here will come Sue and Cameron Wake and Olivier, and it could be a rough night for Tom Brady. I just hope he's getting rid of the ball quickly. Thank you very much.
Skip Bayless, I think this subject is much ado about nothing, because I think, once again, it's you getting emotional and panicking unnecessarily about your New England Patriots. Let me educate you about these Miami Dolphins, okay? In the first game against the Washington Redskins, which they won, they had a grand total of 1 sack. Jordan Phillips was the one who registered the sack. Over the 3 games that followed, in which they lost all 3 games, including a loss to Buffalo and a loss to the New York Jets, they did not have 1 single sack in 3 games. Not one. If you remember, after this, so that means after 4 games, they had a grand total of 1 sack. And then, of course, Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Wake were virtually non-existent. I think Ndamukong Suh had about 3 tackles. Neither of them were doing anything. Neither of them had a sack on the season. In the 2 games that Dan Campbell has taken over, they have 10 sacks.
Thank you for making my case. I appreciate that.
They have 10 sacks. Don't interrupt me. I'm talking. Did I interrupt you?
I just don't know where you're going with this.
Zip it. That's right. Wait, it's coming.
Okay,
so you got your 10 sacks. 6 of them were by Cameron Wake, who's unquestionably their best pass rusher.
Yep.
And Ndamukong Suh had 2 sacks last week. My point to you is that everybody's looking at what Dan Campbell said, and they think that he's tinkering towards, almost crossing that line, crossing that 3rd rail, being dirty.
Yep.
Let's not disrespect the Dolphins. A matter of fact, let's go out of our way to give Dan Campbell credit. Dan Campbell doesn't mean we're going to play dirty. That's not what he's saying. And maybe Ndamukong Suh might have his reputation, even though I believe he's an absolute stud, and that's why Miami went out and guaranteed him $60 million. But Cameron Wake and all of those other guys, we've met some of those guys, Skip. We've talked to them. We know that from a professional perspective, they've got more class, more professional integrity than that, especially a Cameron Wake. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and here's what I'm going to surmise. Dan Campbell said what he said because he couldn't directly disrespect his former boss by saying that Joe Philbin had this team soft, had them looking like they were damn near a flag football team, were devoid of any kind of veracity whatsoever, and we were weak and soft and undeserving of being considered an NFL defense. Dan Campbell can't come out and say something like that without completely disrespecting Joe Philbin, his former boss. Now, say what you want about Joe Philbin. None of us were a fan of his. He didn't deserve anybody to be a fan of his. He shouldn't have got the daggone job to begin with. He was an offensive coordinator in Green Bay who wasn't even calling the plays. That was Mike McCarthy who was doing that. But it doesn't negate the fact that he was the boss, and proper professional decorum, particularly from one football guy to another, in that fraternity that is the NFL, like it would exist in almost any sport, calls for you to exercise decorum. And what I mean by that is that you're not going to call him out by saying he had this team entirely too soft. Nobody really wanted to play for him. It was just a match. It was oil and water. It didn't belong. Dan Campbell's not going to say that. So what he's going to do is just remind you of how football should be played, how I'm going to have my troops going after it. And we're going to go out there and we're going to be Rough Riders. And we're going to play rough house football. That's all he meant by that, because to say anything else would flagrantly disrespect Joe Philbin. They'll go out there, they'll try to compete with the New England Patriots. They'll try to get in Tom Brady's face. Being the magician that he is, he'll work his way around it with a suspect offensive line or a patchwork offensive line or not, because he's got too many weapons. All right, we don't know if Deion Lewis is going to be back.
He's questionable. I don't
he's questionable.
know. Probably game
he's questionable.
time. Yep.
But listen, a tight end coach. No disrespect to Dan Campbell. I like him a lot, very fond of him and the job that he's done thus far. But if we're being honest, You know, he shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath as Bill Belichick as of yet, of course. We know what Bill Belichick can bring to the table. We know they'll be prepared. They'll play smash mouth football. I don't think, other than Ndamukong Suh, who's just ferocious and could give 2 cents about anything or anybody when he's on that football field. I'm not accusing him of being dirty. I'm accusing him of being vicious. I'm saying to you, other than Ndamukong Suh, I don't think you have to worry about anybody else doing anything but going after Tom Brady the way football teams are supposed to go after Tom Brady.
Okay, but that's like saying, other than Ndamukong Suh, then when I go out and I need to protect my skin from the sun, other than the sun, I don't have anything to fear. So
with I'm addressing the point.
He's like, no, that's no big deal. Well, it's the deal.
But that's not the Miami. But that's not the Miami Dolphins. That's Ndamukong. You can put Ndamukong on a flag football team, and he's still going to be who he is. That's entirely different than us broaching the subject, acting as if there's going to be a systemic policy implemented to go after Tom Brady in an illegal or dirty manner. I don't believe for 1 second that the Miami Dolphins are going to do that. I'm just saying, Ndamukong Suh is his own man. He's going to do what he wants to do. That's relatively unpredictable in terms of his levels of viciousness, and that's what you have to watch out for. But I don't believe that we have to sit here and concern ourselves with whether or not the Miami Dolphins are going to be dirty and illegal. I don't find them to be that kind of team. We've questioned whether Ndamukong is that kind of player.
Yes,
we didn't question if Detroit was that kind of team. And I don't think it's fair to do that to the Dolphins either. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Ndamukong has been on the hot seat, as you well know, in Miami for not so far having lived up to his monster contract.
Not the last 2 games.
Okay,
not the last 2 games.
But what I'm saying is, this is a Thursday night national TV stage, their first big moment in the sun this year. And you don't think Sue wouldn't like to knock Tom Brady out of this game? You know, within the rules, whatever. Just
within
just
the
what
rules.
he does.
That's all I'm saying.
It's who he is.
Well, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. But let me ask you a question. Why do we have a problem with that? If my goal is to take you out, but to do so totally legitimately, like I might cave your chest in, I might cause you to have a concussion because the blow that I place on you is so riveting, it knocks your faculties out of whack. There's nothing wrong with that. Anybody that loves football wants to see that from their respective defense. I'm just saying, let's not disrespect the Miami Dolphins by acting like they're willing to resort to dirty tactics just to get at Brady or to beat the New England Patriots. That's not fair to them. We have no evidence of that whatsoever.
It's fair to wonder about Ndamukong Suh, given his track record. I'm sorry. It just is.
Okay, that's fair.
And again,
no, that's fair.
My Dallas Cowboys took down Tom Brady 5 times, as you remember, in the first half. He took some punishment. I thought he took a couple other shots.
Was it remotely illegal? No. Every shot that Greg Hardy laid on Tom Brady was totally legal, totally legitimate. You know, and for all his bluster and viciousness, when he went after Tom Brady, every single thing he did was within the rules.
Yep. Okay.
And so all I'm saying is, if Ndamukong Suh goes out there and does Ndamukong Suh, we're going to say it's Ndamukong Suh. Let's not sit there and say it's the Miami Dolphins, because Ndamukong Suh is his own man, and let's face reality. He is a different kind of cat. He operates differently. He's a maverick. You know, what everyone else does, what's conventional, is not what he customarily follows. And it has worked for him because he was the premier free agent out there and got a $100 million deal with $60 million guaranteed. Yeah. He's doing something right.
I think Jay Cutler would call Ndamukong some other name besides Maverick, but that's just me, given what Sue has done to Cutler in the past.
Well, then the subject should have been about what Ndamukong Suh is going to do, because we certainly have no evidence of what the Dolphins are going to do. We don't have no evidence. Everything they've done is on the up and up.
Again, Vernon was condemned by Ken Wisenhunt. That was a dirty shot on Mariota, right? That's Campbell's first game. Again, I didn't think it was that. It was borderline, but it wasn't that dirty to me. But
I
still,
saw him tumbling into Mariota. I saw him tumbling into Mariota.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, with all due respect, let's face reality, because you're very good at doing this. Like trying to peel the agenda from people's statements. Let's look at Ken Wisenhunt. What have you done since you've arrived at Tennessee? What have you done whenever you didn't have Kurt Warner as your quarterback? The record ain't that damn impressive.
Yep.
So the fact that Mariota was hurt in that game, even though he still played, was something that ruffled Ken Wisenhunt's feathers, and obviously he acted accordingly, one would surmise.
Yeah, okay, real quick, my final, I'll admit this on national TV. I do have some ulterior motive here. I want to plant the seeds in the referees' heads tonight to be on the lookout. That's just me. I want my guy protected. I want them to be on watch.
You want your guy protected.
Yes.
As Ray Lewis would say, he's a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
He got to go out there. Ain't nobody advocating to break the rules or anything like that. But I think Tom Brady is more than capable of going out there and handling his business without you tipping the referees off in a quest to heighten their level of sensitivity. Man up. Let your man go out there, be the great quarterback that he is, and handle his business instead of being a wuss and trying to give him some edge because you're looking for the officials to come to his rescue.
Wait, are you calling me a wuss or him a wuss?
You, because you're sitting there and trying to use the officials to help you. You're trying to use the officials.
With it on me, but not on Brady. Okay.
Well, not on Brady. Because you're trying to use the officials to help out Brady. If he's so great, let him go out there and handle his business like he always does. What you worried about him for?
Did you hear the line I just read off to you? Are you kidding me? This is the worst in the NFL. How do you survive this? Seriously, I don't know. But he keeps doing it.
He's not just Skip. He's not surviving. He's prospering.
Oh, is he?
So what are you worried about? He's undefeated. What are you worried about?
Well,
Leave him alone.
This is a serious pass rush.
Turn on the TV tonight and watch the game.
All right.
Stop sitting up there and getting all sensitive, being worried about your guy Tom Brady. He can handle it.
The story.
Don't sit there and sully Miami because you're trying to protect Tom Brady. Don't do that to them. Watch the football game.
Let Molly talk.
The storyline I'm really excited about is if Miami's legit. Dan Campbell has this team hanging up 82 points the last two games. They're on this hot streak. The defense is playing well.
Yep.
Are they legit?
Well, I'll tell you what, the odds makers in Las Vegas think they're legit, Stephen A., because the Jets wound up a 9-point underdog last Sunday in Foxborough, and the Dolphins opened up as only a 7.5-point underdog. It did get bet up to 8, but still, there's more respect out there slightly for the Dolphins than for the Jets. I'm surprised by that. Now, I'll just go ahead and throw it out there, Stephen A., like your thoughts on this. I still think New England is vastly superior to Miami. I'm not going to read that much into what Miami just did for Dan Campbell at Tennessee and against the woeful Houston Texans. This is obviously the class of the National Football League. I believe Tom Brady's having his greatest year ever, and I'm hoping that will continue tonight. I'm going to say 30-14. Well, no, I'll go 30-17 Patriots in this game. Sorry.
I like that score. I would pick New England to win somewhere along the lines of 33-24. Ryan Tannehill, his QBR isn't that impressive at this particular moment in time. I think it's only like a 41. But Lamar Miller, even though he's averaging 6 yards a carry, I mean, that's kind of helped by 14 carries for 175 yards last week in the first half against the Houston Texans. So it remains to be seen who they are, what they are made of. I think their passing game is relatively suspect. Not as much of a believer in Ryan Tannehill as I was in the past. Let's see what he does. But I do believe that their defensive personnel is much better now than they were under Joe Philbin. So it will be interesting to see what they do.
Our next guest really needs no introduction. 6-time NBA champion, 6-time MVP, 19-time All-Star, and the NBA's all-time leading scorer. We welcome Hall of Famer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for being here.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So you are here to discuss your upcoming documentary, Kareem Minority of One, that debuts next Tuesday on HBO?
Yes, on November 3rd.
Okay, what can we expect from the film?
Well, just some insights into what motivated me and what my actual feelings were about so many of the issues that I've become known for. I think it was time to do that and remove all of the mystery and get to a point where people could understand me better.
Interesting.
Why Why the title Minority of One specifically?
Well, just the people at Mandalay felt that my stances and just my path has been pretty unique, and I have not done it like anyone else has done it, so I am a minority one in that sense.
You were always so outspoken on social issues, so controversial in your day. How would you characterize, or would you like to see more from today's pro athletes speaking out on social issues?
Well, I'm glad to see that on things that are important and that are meaningful, that the athletes today are taking the initiative to say something. I remember two members of the Cleveland Browns spoke up when Tamir Rice was killed so horribly on Christmas Day last year. And they did that. They spoke out because they were both parents of young men. They both had young male children, and they saw where that could have been their child. And it was something that really concerned them, and they spoke out. I think that in those circumstances, people need to speak out. You don't have to make a career of it, but when something that horrible happens, something has to be done.
Kareem, one of the things that I've noticed and that's really, really pleased me about the modern day athlete, more so than, I'm not talking about your time, I'm talking about afterward, like that late 80s, mid 90s range where folks weren't really saying too much, weren't really willing to take on any issues. In today's day, it's not just the guys are willing to tackle issues. I find it that they're picking the right issues to tackle, like they're thinking for themselves as opposed to coming across as if somebody is thinking for them. Do you find that to be the case as well?
Yeah, for the most part. I think you're absolutely right on with that. LeBron came out, wearing the sweatshirt with "I Can't Breathe" on it, and he was making a statement that a lot of people needed to listen to, especially the young kids that admire him. I think that his ability to communicate with them that way has raised their consciousness and got them to start thinking about things in a different way. And I think he's managed to do a lot of good in that sense.
Last night, as you well know, Kobe Bryant began his 20th NBA season. You played 20 NBA seasons. You finished at age 42. Obviously, Kobe did not go to college, so he's 37. But just so our viewers can grasp this man played 66,297 minutes, the all-time record, and it's about 11,000 more minutes than Kobe has played right now. So how much of an advantage, if any, did a tall man have over a Kobe who's a two-guard? Is there some advantage there?
I think the advantage that the front line players have is that they don't have to play a speed game. On the perimeter, you have to be fast, you have to be quick, and just burning the rubber all the time really takes more out of you than it does for the front line players who run a little bit further, but they do it slower. So, we don't get burnt out in the same way that the perimeter players do.
Jumping, would you have jumped less in your later years? Would you be more of a position rebounder or more of a with your head rebounder than?
I think everybody rebounds in their own style. There's not one style of rebounding. Wes Unseld was great as a position guy because you couldn't get around him. Manute Bol will just reach over you and grab rebounds. He could be more stationary. So it all depends on your physical attributes, how you do it.
Kareem, one of the questions I wanted to ask is basically a two-parter. Number one, I want to know, who do you believe to be the best big man in the game? Because I believe it's DeMarcus Cousins right now. But more importantly, I want to know how you feel about how the game has transitioned to some degree. Back to the basket centers are pretty close to non-existent in this day and age. You got guys that are 5, but they're really a 4. And even when they're a 4, they're the stretch 4, shooting 15 to 17-foot jump shots. You had what I consider to be the most unstoppable move in the history of basketball. I don't see anybody like that. I don't see this game continuing in that direction. I see the game almost being devoid of centers, literally prototypical centers. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think anybody who takes the time to master the back-to-the-basket game is going to be a valuable asset to his team. It just takes someone with the determination and time to learn how to play that way. And that's a very valuable asset, to be able to get high percentage shots, 6 to 8 feet from the basket. You mentioned the way they're more versatile. I see a player like the young man Anthony Davis down with the Pelicans. He can do it all. And I think there's more and more versatility that everybody in the game has started to demonstrate. But height is always going to be an advantage. And the closer you get to the basket, the more that advantage plays in your favor. So I don't think that's going to change. It might take a different dynamic, but it's not going to change. Size and the ability to score closer to the hoop is always going to be an advantage for someone.
Well, who's the best big man in the game in your eyes?
The best big man ever?
No, now.
No, best big man in the game today. Today.
Geez, I haven't seen DeMarcus Cousins play, so I can't assess him. But Anthony Davis, he's able to do everything. He can score, facing the basket, back to the basket. He blocks shots, he rebounds. He does it all. I like the young man from the University of Wisconsin last year. He was able to play back to the basket and come out and shoot three-pointers. That type of versatility is a great asset. So, there's different ways to skin a cat. We'll see more and more as the athletes figure it out and apply it to their skills.
We asked you about Dwight Howard when he was a Laker. Where do you see his career at this stage?
Geez, Dwight Howard, he's somewhere in the middle of the pack. He hasn't ever stepped out and dominated the game in a way that made his team a shoo-in to win it all. I don't want to say any more than that. He plays with one of the best players in the game. So it's not all on his shoulders.
Enough said.
Kareem, thank you so much for the time, and very excited about this new documentary, Minority of One, on HBO Tuesday. We will set our DVRs.
I'm also writing novels now.
You are? Okay.
There's a novel called Mycroft Holmes. It's about Sherlock Holmes' smarter and older brother. I think Stephen A. needs to read that. He might learn, might learn a little something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We need you around here more often.
Yes, sir. I'm not getting into it with you, my man. Not the winner you are.
I'm gonna send you a
concede.
Copy so that you
yes,
can
you
take
do.
it with
Please.
you on your next long road trip. You got something to read
That's right.
you can get a few chuckles at. And
hey, Skip.
Yes.
71 straight wins in high school, 3 consecutive national championships in college, and 6 championships in the pros. I have nothing to say.
I know.
I worship at the altar, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I got nothing to say.
Well, thank you so much.
Winner.
Take care, Stephen.
All right, buddy.
Kareem, thank you.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The Golden State Warriors, NBA champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Billy Donovan is victorious in his first appearance as an NBA head coach. The Thunder beat the Spurs 112-106. Russell Westbrook, Stephen A's MVP pick, had a 30-point, 10-assist night, and Kevin Durant put 22 on the board. The Thunder have now won 7 of the last 9 versus the Spurs. Stephen A., can OKC keep winning like they did last night in that fashion?
No, they can't, but they won't have to. You have to remember, I think it depends on what you're asking. If you're talking in terms of numbers, no. Kevin Durant has to be more offensively efficient than 6 for 19 shooting and 22 points. He's when healthy and fully in rhythm, fully in gear, he's considered the second best player on the planet. So when you look at it from that perspective, clearly there's going to be some leaning on him to do. But when you look at the fact that Russell Westbrook obviously fully capable of stepping in and carrying the freight, and more than willing to do so. What I was pleased about last night, and maybe Skip saw it differently, but for me, I saw a Russell Westbrook literally looking to get Kevin Durant involved early, understanding that it was his first game back, regular season-wise, in quite a long time. And it was once Kevin Durant clearly didn't have his complete rhythm that Russell Westbrook said, enough of this, I'm going to take over. Let's also keep in mind that last night is an aberration in this respect. Yeah, you might have to go through San Antonio, but you're not going to be the Kevin Durant last night as the season progresses. He was rusty, he wasn't himself, and he was going up against the reigning defensive player of the year in Kawhi Leonard, who's just a bad boy and very, very deserving of every penny that he received this offseason. You got Kawhi Leonard up against you. You've got to bring your A game. Kevin Durant didn't have his A game. So Russell Westbrook tried to get him involved, but then after that, basically picked up the slack, did what he needed to do, along with Deion Waiters and others, and ultimately pulled out the victory. I think that level of unselfishness, I think that level of recognition, understanding when and where to push the pedal to the metal. I mean, I just think that that's the kind of thing that ultimately is going to help you capture the West if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. So in that regard, I definitely believe we saw, what I anticipated we'd see for the Thunder to be successful. But I will acknowledge that Kevin Durant obviously would have to play better, and I believe he will play better. It's just game one of an 82-game regular season, and he was going up against Kawhi Leonard.
So just for the record, to your point about early on, Russell tried to get KD involved more.
At the very beginning, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
well, it must have been at the very, very beginning, because in the first quarter, Russell took 9 shots to Kevin's 5, just for the record.
Yeah.
But I get where you're going. I get where you're going. Okay,
Yeah.
I got to throw this game out to your point about how will Durant and Westbrook coexist this year, and could Kevin coexist enough that he would take the back seat to Russell Westbrook's MVP season this year? And by the way, he was sensational last night, to your point about you think he will be the MVP. This was the San Antonio Spurs, who are an awful matchup for Kevin Durant and a great matchup for Russell Westbrook. Tony Parker, I'll be the first to admit to you, Stephen A. Smith, cannot guard Russell Westbrook. So once Tony's on the floor, you're a liability at that position. And I do not blame Russell for saying, give me the ball and get out of my way. I can take Tony Parker. I can go up over him. I can blow by him. I can do just about anything I want to Tony Parker. Even though Tony's a pretty good defender, this is just a bad matchup. You could argue with me, everybody's a bad matchup for Russell Westbrook, but Danny Green plays Russell pretty well. And down the stretch, later in the game, Danny Green took him and kept him to a low roar late in the game and allowed the Spurs to get back in the game. But Kawhi Leonard just does a number on Kevin Durant. Kevin went 6 for 19, as you know. And if we want to talk about the MVP of this game last night, to my eyes, the best player on the floor was Kawhi Leonard. Because remember, overall, Kawhi Leonard goes 13 of 22. Russell went 12 of 23. So, and the number that Kawhi did on everybody, that, he comes off his guy and gets his hands swiping balls, stealing balls, deflecting balls. And he was really disrupting Kevin Durant last night. So that was an early MVP-style performance from Kawhi Leonard. But back to the game. It was a heck of a basketball game, a great opening night game. And in the very end, Russell Westbrook missed a big shot. Danny Green was on and missed a jump shot that could have closed the door and opened the door back up for the Spurs to get a shot to either tie or go ahead. And what did my friend Danny Green do? He took one of the worst shots that a Popovich player has ever taken in a clutch spot. I don't know what he was thinking. He came off a pick. Steven Adams came back over on him, and he just had no shot and tried to shoot it over what's Steven Adams, 7'2" or whatever he is, and he got a shot blocked. He had to throw it straight up into the rafters, and it was an awful Spurs possession. LaMarcus Aldridge, he wasn't sure how to fit in the clutch situations. He was 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter. So my Spurs are going to have to figure out the pecking order when it comes time to close the game. I thought Kawhi deserved to have the ball in his hands late, and I thought he could have out-Westbrooked Westbrook late in the game, but he just didn't get the ball in the two big clutch situations.
Well, when you talk about people who deserve the ball, outside of Tim Duncan, that's not the way I view San Antonio running this system in terms of an individual having the ball. Like, clear everything out. I'm going to handle this. They move a lot without the ball. There's movement, all right, with the ball. Without the ball, there's always movement in both scenarios. And when you really want to give it to somebody for money time, it's Tim Duncan. Where it's going to be an adjustment for San Antonio this year is clearly this team has been handed over to Kawhi Leonard.
Yep.
This dude is the future star of this franchise because he does it on both ends of the floor, and he's so exceptional defensively, and he's gifted enough offensively that you feel the need to give him an opportunity to be that guy on the offensive end of the floor because of what he does for you defensively. And I think that as the season progresses, you'll see him. I mean, what I saw wasn't about the 22 shots he took. It was about the fact that he did it unconsciously. It's clear that he has the green light, and it's clear Greg Popovich and the crew have no problem with it whatsoever. LaMarcus Aldridge will fit in. It's his first game with the San Antonio Spurs. He's too gifted, too talented. We've seen how sensational he can be. It's just one game. But Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge are the future of this franchise. And I think that everybody knows that. In the case of Oklahoma City, however, look, man, Russell Westbrook is a superstar. And you talk about how it was a good matchup for Kevin. It wasn't a good matchup for Kevin Durant, but it was a good matchup for Russell Westbrook. Let me ask you this question, Skip, rhetorically. Who the hell can guard Russell Westbrook?
I agree.
There is no one.
Yeah.
There is no one. As far as I'm concerned, if you took it on a one-on-one level, every game is a good matchup for Russell Westbrook because I think he is absolutely, positively unguardable. You might help out for him on a possession or whatever, but in terms of having him as a defensive assignment for 25, 30-plus minutes, I don't care who it is. Even if it's LeBron, even if it's Kawhi Leonard, it don't matter who it is. Even if it's Tony Allen, who we both know to be a great defender. Yep. You don't want no parts of Russell Westbrook. Nobody wants to parts of Russell Westbrook. This brother's unstoppable.
I got it. But I'm going to tell you again, of the Spurs, Danny Green can bother him because Danny's 6'6" and has pretty quick feet and is so smart and long. He bothers Russell a little bit. I'm not saying he can stop him. I'm just saying, trust me.
Okay, so
can.
Instead of 40, he might score 35. I mean, well, look. Okay, Danny, no disrespect, because I like my man Danny Green.
He can defend now.
He can defend all he wants to. He can defend no Russell Westbrook. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that one. Let's not get too excited. Danny Green. I like Danny Green, but you got me saying his name funny when you talk about him guarding Russell Westbrook. Don't you start no nonsense like that. You said Danny Green in the same breath that you said Tiago Splitter.
No.
I mean, come on now.
Okay. But here's the problem for the Spurs. If you put Danny Green on Russell and Tony's on the floor, Tony Parker, who's he going to guard?
Well, listen,
Durant?
I'm not debating that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't tell me there's somebody that can guard Russell Westbrook. And by the way, Billy Donovan, congratulations to him for his first win. And
impressive.
I love the fact that he has both Monty Williams and Mo Cheeks as his assistant.
Yep.
It's a beautiful, beautiful coaching staff. I'm very happy. Very happy.
And Enes Kanter was the difference off the bench. 16 points. Come on, limited time. 16 points, 16 rebounds.
Dion Waiters was the difference off the bench. He made the two biggest shots of the game.
He got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of heart. And I'm glad to see him getting a little loose out there, too, because he waited for this opportunity, and he deserves it, to be quite honest with you. So I like seeing him in Oklahoma City. Enes Kanter, he can't guard anybody, but he can score.
The next time he defends somebody will be the first time.
That's right. He can score.
Next
he can
question.
score, though.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The people out there are with me. Let's get to the late game haters.
You think so?
The Timberwolves beat the Lakers 112 to 111 last night at Staples Center. Kobe Bryant had 24 points, was 8 of 24, and 3 from 13 from the three-point line, 0 from 5 from the field in the fourth quarter. Here's Kobe after the game.
I felt good. I mean, the shots didn't go down in the fourth quarter, but my health felt good, and you know that timing will come back. Like I said, I just haven't played in a minute, but I feel pretty good.
Skip, what'd you see from Kobe Bean?
Molly, Stephen A., I must tell you, in the first half, I was very happy with what I saw from Kobe Bean Bryant. I liked the way he was moving. I liked the way his body looked. He had a freshness to him. He looked like he could still be a factor in the National Basketball Association. Crossed over a couple of T-Wolves dudes. Looked good. Look, you know, a little like the old Kobe, the great old Kobe, the younger Kobe. And then, Stephen A., I cannot tell a lie. As the second half began to evolve, Kobe started falling back into the same old, bad old patterns. Kobe Bryant last night in total wound up taking 24 shots. That's 10 more than any of his Laker teammates took. That's more than anybody took in any of the 14 NBA games last night. That was the most shots attempted last night, 24 shots by Kobe Bryant. On contested three-point shots, Kobe went 1 for 9. When he tried to create his own shot, he was 3 for 16. On passes from teammates, when he was just a spot-up shooter, he went 5 for 8. Pretty good. He had only 1 assist late in the game in the 31, that came with 31 seconds left. Lou Williams ended up taking the last shot of the game for the Lakers when they did have a chance to tie or win the game.
Yep.
And I wasn't surprised because if you know the stat on Kobe, he has now missed, or up to this moment, he has missed his last 9 potential go-ahead shots with 5 seconds or less left in regulation or overtime. So Byron Scott wants Lou Williams to be the closer, the last shot taker. Big picture, it just didn't feel that good to me. I liked the way he looked. I didn't like the way he performed, the way his contribution to a Laker team that blew a lead and lost to a very, as we know, very young, inexperienced Timberwolves team. It didn't feel good to me in the end for Kobe's contribution to this team that a lot of people think has a shot at the 8th playoff spot, and I do not. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, I don't believe they have a shot.
Yep.
That's number one. Number two, I must tell you, I completely agree with you. I was not impressed with Kobe Bryant's performance last night. I thought he made some good shots in the first half. Obviously struggled miserably in the second half. I did not blame Byron Scott for calling Louis Williams' number. He had 21 points on the evening. I think, what did he shoot, 6 of 14 from the field for the game? It didn't bother me that Louis Williams got called for the last shot, although if you're going to take it to the basket, I would have preferred that it be Kobe instead of him. Yeah. If you were just going to shoot a perimeter shot, I would have said pick Louis Williams. Overall, I think that, once again, this is the Black Mamba. This is the league MVP and a 5-time champion. It's just one game, and we understood that, he didn't play too much last year or even the last 2 years, only 41 games in the last 2 years of a possible 164 regular season game. So we understand that. And, obviously he'll feel himself out because he's forgotten more about the game of basketball in terms of what it takes to be successful than any of us will ever know. The flip side to it, however, is that the reason why I think it's apropos to say that we were disappointed is because one of the things they consistently rave about, Skip, when it comes to Kobe Bryant is his footwork.
Yep.
How beautiful his footwork is and how elevated his basketball IQ is. What I'm starting to get tired of is this reliance on the jump shot when there are so many things that he can do. You watch Kobe take a quick step, get loose, and what have you. He has this ability to shake off and evade defenders. That means he can get to the basket more. That means he can get to the free throw line more. That means everything doesn't have to be a jump shot. And remember, only 4 of the 24 attempts that he made last night were from inside. Yep. Everything else was a jump shot. I do understand that he's 37 and that the spring in his step no longer exists compared to what it used to be. He's still Kobe. He's still going to be great. I have no doubt about that. But he is too intelligent. He is too smart just to be shooting jump shots. He needs to get to the free throw line a little bit more and get people off of him that way too, because I think that could ultimately open up his perimeter game even more if he start getting some cats in foul trouble.
Yep.
He's too smart for that. So to me, I wasn't overly impressed with his performance in the second half. It was just one game. I'm not worried about him in the slightest so long as he's healthy. But I'm judging him by his standards. He could have been much better than what he was.
You know, to your point, I wonder if in his 20th season, Kobe Bryant doesn't yet trust his body enough after the major injuries he's been through to take it to the rack. Is he avoiding contact? Because if you drive the basketball, obviously, there's going to be lots of contact. Do you think he just doesn't trust or want to inflict that kind of contact on himself in his 20th year?
I won't pretend to know the answer to that question. And when it comes to guys in the league that I actually talk to, I like to give them an opportunity to answer the question. Now, if I don't talk to you because we don't have that kind of relationship, I can't get you on the phone, then I'll come up and I'll project in my own way based on talking to other people. But for people that I speak to directly, when I can just ask you the question and you'll answer it, I'd rather wait until I speak to Kobe to answer that question. What I will tell you, however, is this. I just know that his basketball IQ and his footwork are two of the things that he's lauded for the most.
Yep.
So when you consider that, there's no reason for him to rely on the jump shot as much as he does. Of course you use it in your repertoire. Of course it's a dominant presence in your repertoire because you're no longer 27 years of age. You're 37. We get that. But at the same time, I do think that he can get to the line a little bit more than he does as opposed to jacking up long-range shots.
Speaking of jump shots, Ricky Rubio's looked better. You guys can't contest that.
Well, Ricky Rubio was shockingly effective last night with 28 points, 14 assists. I couldn't believe what I saw because I'm not that big of a Ricky Rubio fan. He can really, really pass. But I don't see anything else that I would trust him to do. I don't trust his jump shot, and I damn sure don't trust his defense. He makes the terrific passes, set for the highlight reels or whatever. But I happen to believe that Zach LaVine is somebody that's on the verge of being very much better than he is eventually. I think that the upside is Zach LaVine in the years to come as opposed to Ricky Rubio. I'm not that sold on Ricky Rubio, so I was surprised at how good he looked last night because never in a million years did I think that he would be hitting jump shots and dropping 28 points on anybody.
58 points.
To Molly's very interesting point and pertinent point that she made. Last night in the fourth quarter, Ricky Rubio made 4 out of 5 shots. Kobe Bryant 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, you guys are on Team Molly right now. I like
one
it.
Of us is.
Thank you.
One of us.
Well, one of us is. One of us is. I want to give props to Sam Mitchell, obviously coaching in place of Flip Saunders.
Yes.
Good job by him last night. They came back to win that game. Lakers lost a 16-point lead, basically validating you and I, Skip, talking about how we can't see them making noise in the West. I mean, you couldn't beat Minnesota.
Meanwhile, Manny Pacquiao has claimed he's in negotiations over a rematch with Floyd Mayweather, indicating that talks are underway to secure another shot at him. Here's Pacquiao in a Q&A session on Facebook yesterday.
I don't know yet who's my opponent next, but we're still negotiating right now about the rematch with Floyd Mayweather. So, hoping for that.
I'm hoping to, Stephen A. Is this fight going to happen?
Well, I don't think so unless Floyd Money Mayweather is lying. Because he and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, via text, and he emphatically stated that it was false, that there is no negotiation, that he's not fighting anymore, period. A matter of fact, that's exactly what he said. I'm reading from the text here, Skip, dated October 9th. It's totally false. I'm not fighting anymore, period. That's what Floyd's position has been. So why Manny Pacquiao continues to bloviate to the public about a potential rematch just speaks of desperation, because obviously he desperately wants to redeem himself. What he doesn't realize is that he hurts his chances of convincing Floyd to give him that rematch every time he opens his mouth and alludes to that shoulder injury that he obviously had to get operated on from all of those shots he was actually missing during the game. Okay? So if he stopped saying that, maybe, just maybe, he'd have a chance. But because he keeps opening his mouth and alluding to how he wasn't himself, you know, it just comes across as another excuse. It reeks of disrespect. And Floyd actually he's under no obligation whatsoever to give him a rematch. Floyd has made about $1 billion in the ring. Manny Pacquiao is sitting there and struggling to pay off the IRS and Top Rank and all of this other stuff to walk away with a quarter of the $100 million purse that he earned against Floyd Money Mayweather. So when you look at it from that perspective, the bottom line is that he seems to be crying out for a rematch against Floyd. Perhaps he should sit there and recognize that he needs to stop bringing up his shoulder injury if he wants a legitimate rematch. Or fight this kid Terrence Crawford or fight Amir Khan. No, I don't know if even though considering that Juan Manuel Marquez put him to sleep last time, maybe people would be interested in seeing a fifth fight with them. Me personally, I'd like to see Manny Pacquiao against that haymaker thrower in Ruslan Provodnikov, because he's a knockout artist. I'd love to see him against somebody like that. Can't box to save his life, but he's a knockout artist and keeps coming. He's like the modern day Rocky. Don't matter how much you hit him, he ain't going down. He just keeps coming and coming and coming. So it would be nice to see something like that. But it ain't going to happen against Mayweather unless, of course, Mayweather wakes up, is a little bit bored with retirement, and decides to change his mind. He has earned the right to do that.
Okay, so just to be clear, your text from Floyd dated October 9th did not say anything specifically about I'm not negotiating with Pacquiao. He just said I'm retired. I'm not fighting anybody, correct?
I asked him about Manny Pacquiao saying that they were discussing a rematch, and that was his response. Leonard Ellaby was more extensive, and what Leonard Ellaby said to me, he said to the media, but then I spoke to Floyd directly that day, and he texted me that day and said exactly what he said and asked me to relay it to the public, which is why I did it.
Okay, now after all the ducking and dodging and evading we just heard on this matter, I'm going to get real about it. Here's the truth from somebody I'm talking to right now.
Oh, good.
Really?
Really?
Me?
Yeah,
Ducking,
really.
dodging?
Maybe you.
Me?
Maybe who? I'm not talking to Molly right now, am I? I think I'm looking at you.
I don't know why you would,
and we're going to deal with the truth of the matter. There is no way Floyd Money Mayweather would risk his undefeated record fighting now a healthy Manny Pacquiao. Floyd Money Mayweather got the biggest money break of his life, of his career, when Manny Pacquiao, 5 weeks before the fight with Floyd, injured his rotator cuff, tore his rotator cuff while sparring, according to the great Freddie Roach, who did buy you a pair of shoes, if I do recall.
Yes,
right?
there was some blue Tom Ford shoes, which Freddie Roach needs to know. By the way, I wear at least once or twice a week. They're exceptional shoes. I'd encourage anybody to go out and buy them. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Freddie.
And he paid off a bet that I didn't think he needed to pay off, because even with one arm, even without being able to spar for 5 weeks ahead of that fight, even after requesting a painkiller shot on the night of the fight and being rejected by the Nevada Athletic Commission, despite all that, despite having to fight with one arm basically tied behind his back, I still thought Manny won the fight, because Floyd ran and ran some more. And again, silly me, I've been covering boxing even longer than you have.
Which is why it's embarrassing that you're saying this, because you don't know boxing after all of these years of covering it.
From the start, by people who really, really know boxing, the aggressor wins the round. I thought Manny was the aggressor the whole fight. So did Manny. He stood in the ring after the fight and looked around and said,
"If you missed 400 times, what do you expect? You missed about 400 times.
You're swinging with one hand."
Whatever.
Really?
Okay, let me tell you something right now, Skip Bayless. You can sit there and say that all you want to, but everybody knows that opinion is an absolute joke.
No, they do not
Manny
know that.
Pacquiao missed over 400 swings. He swung at air about 400 times.
Torn rotator
that's
cuff.
probably why he
Surgery
hurt
the
his
next
rotator.
day.
That's probably why
Surgery
it was torn.
the next
It was
day.
Hey, I had an undisputed middleweight champion of the world come in there and sit right next to you and say Manny Pacquiao probably got hurt swinging and missing as opposed to before the
you
fight.
texted him to say that before.
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all.
You're talking
not at
about
all.
Bernie
I wouldn't
Hopkins,
do that.
right? Bernie?
Barney.
I like Barney
Bernard
better.
Hopkins.
Barney Hopkins.
You know what I'm saying? Bernard Hopkins, all right?
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, Skip. You can say what you want to say, but in the end, the bottom line is very, very simple. Manny Pacquiao lost the fight. He had his chance. You're not going to shame Floyd into accepting. You're not going to you try to coax him into accepting some rematch. It's a waste of time. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Listen, there's some good fighters out there. Manny can fight the winner of Cotto or Canelo. Manny can fight Juan Manuel Marquez in a rematch. Oh, I'm sorry. They would care about a Cotto or Canelo Alvarez fight against Manny Pacquiao. You can go there. You can fight an Amir Khan. You can fight a Terrence Crawford, who's very good. You can fight a Provodnikov, who's a knockout artist. You can do some things. You don't have to bother Floyd. You know why he wants Floyd? Because he needs the money. That's why he wants Floyd. He needs the money because he's going to run for office. You know they ain't paying you in the Philippines not to do politics. I'm telling you that right now. So he's stuck in a situation trying to get as much money as he possibly can before he becomes the senator in the Philippines. That's really what's going on here, but that's not Floyd's problem.
I will agree with you. He could use I don't think he needs the money now, but he could use the money because he is a philanthropist in his home country. He does spread the wealth. But the point
Which means that he ain't going to have too much of it.
Okay, but the point is, the main reason he wants Floyd when healthy is that he knows in his heart of hearts he can beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. when he has two arms to swing with, two fists to use. He knows it.
So many people have said this.
Hey, here's the point.
So many people have said this.
If Floyd Mayweather Jr. had any real guts, he would fight, he would give Manny a rematch, and then he would take on Triple G. You know it, and I know it. If he had any guts,
listen, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the Triple G, but it's a plausible and valid opinion. Don't bring me Manny Pacquiao like he owes Manny Pacquiao some rematch. The fight was a mega fight. The fight was a mega fight because fools like you thought Manny Pacquiao was going to go into the ring and attack Floyd and beat him down, and I told you he wouldn't be able to touch Floyd. I tried to tell you he wouldn't be able to touch him, and you wouldn't listen. That's what I tried to tell. Everybody talks about beating up Floyd, and then you can't hit him. So what you gonna do? You can't even catch him with a combination. You're lucky to catch him with one good shot like Madonna did, or catch him with one good shot like Sugar Shane did. I haven't even seen Floyd get caught with combinations. A combination. You catch him with one punch. Now, if you're Tommy Hitman Hearns back in the day, that's all you need. But outside of that, you're gonna need combinations in order to take somebody like Floyd out. You can't hit him, and that's the problem. You're just jealous that your man walked into the ring. He was ill-prepared to deal with the defensive brilliance of Floyd Money Mayweather, and that is what happened.
He needed surgery the next day. The next day he needed rotator cuff surgery.
That's because of what happened the night of the fight. That's because of what happened the night of the fight when he was swinging and missing all the time.
He swung and missed and tore his rotator. I keep saying it all the time. That Fleury threw in the fourth round and the sixth round. I ain't see you saying a torn rotator cuff then. Oh, please, it's just chirping. He lost.
Listen,
he lost. Get over it.
They're going to fight.
You got the break of your life and the break of Floyd's life.
Manny Pacquiao is irrelevant. He had his chance and he lost.
Listen, in my humble opinion, they're going to fight in that new Las Vegas arena, that $350 million arena this spring.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
I'll be there.
All right. Moving on.
I guess they're going to play Floyd about $500 million to do the fight.
Yeah.
I bet you he'll do it then.
Tom Brady and the undefeated Patriots are preparing for a Thursday night AFC showdown in Foxborough. Historically, Brady has dominated Thursday night football, going a perfect 8-0 in those games. Not to mention, he's been playing like an MVP and keeps getting better. Check this out. In 2007, the Pats were also undefeated through their first 6 games. But since then, his pass yards per game have increased from 304 to 342. And his touchdown to interception ratio also improving from 21 to 2, now 16 to 1. His QBR has slightly decreased, but still, this might be Brady's best year ever. We asked you guys to answer that on Twitter, and here are your results. Over 60% say yes, it is. And for this conversation, we welcome in Darren Woodson. Good to see you, as always. Do you agree with the fans here? Is this Brady's best season ever? Because he's had some pretty good ones.
He got some great ones in 2007. You just talked about it in 07. I don't know if he can get better than 07.
Right.
You know, he had Randy Moss on the outside, throws for 50 touchdown passes, 4,860 yards. That was the best, in my opinion, in my time of watching football, was the greatest offense I'd ever seen. I mean, coming to town, they were going to put up points, and you know it. Now,
you played against Brady.
I played in Foxborough.
In which year?
Had to be 02.
Okay, got it.
Had to be 02 in that time.
Super Bowl years, those years.
Yeah, and they were strong then as well. And that's what you like about Brady. Brady has not changed. And we've always tried to discount what he's done in the past. And it seems like, now I'm looking at this situation this year. I think this is his greatest work. I honestly do, because in 07 he had guys like Randy Moss on the outside, and he had some playmakers that can make plays for him. Right now, Gronk is the only big name on that offense. Yeah. You talk, Julian Edelman, as much as I love him and what he's doing, that's all good. Danny Amendola, these guys, could they play on other? Brandon LaFell, who can't catch a ball half the time on the outside, could they do these certain things on other teams? And I just don't see it. And Brady makes them better. And again, you just go back to 07. Jabbar Gaffney was at that time probably the only guy who, after he left, had some success in Denver and in Washington. Other than that, Dante Stallworth fell off the cliff. Randy Moss fell off the cliff. I mean, you see so many. Wes Welker, what ended up happening with him? There's so many guys that Brady made better in their time, and this year is no different.
Stephen A.
I went back and took a peek at the 2007 stats of the New England Patriots when they went undefeated after Spygate, ultimately went through the playoffs and lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl because Strahan and the crew were all over him. And he had to tap dance like the late, great Gregory Hines, God rest his soul. But, before that, looking at his numbers, 50 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions, QBR of 84, 68% completion percentage, nearly 5,000 yards, 48 and change to be exact. Brady's on pace to throw less than the 8 interceptions. I don't know if he's on pace. I don't think he's on pace, rather, to throw 50 touchdowns.
No.
But I do believe that the numbers are relatively similar. I don't blame him for having the mindset that he's playing better now than he ever has. I can't definitively blame you nor anybody else if you think that. But it was just something special back then about Brady to Randy Moss to Wes Welker. It was something special. I mean, Lawrence Maroney was your quarterback. But I just looked at it, Skip, and
running back.
He was a running back. He's running back for them. In all honesty, guys, and Molly, here's why I think back to 2007. It's one moment that I'll never forget about Brady as long as I live. They had Randy Moss on a fly pattern, if I remember correctly, Darren. And they missed it against the Giants in a final regular season game. They missed it. The very next play, they called the same play. And Baum threw it up there, and Brady connected with Moss for the 50th touchdown. Okay? I just thought that moment was so special because it was like they were literally saying, we're going to do what we want to do. What are you going to do about it?
Boss move.
They just had... This year, they seem to be on this mission where it's all about Deflategate and, proving you wrong and all that other stuff. Before, you had Spygate, but remember, that was legitimate. They could use it as a motivational tool all they wanted to, but what was undeniable was that it was legitimate because it was Spygate. You're spying and you're not supposed to be doing that and, all of this other stuff, and Lord knows how many tapes the commissioner's office had and all of this other stuff. But they just went out on the field and said, We're going to show you we're better. That's entirely different than being out there now, being ticked off and basically taking it out on everybody because you have a superior system with superior personnel, a superior coach, etc., etc. Back in 2007, it was like, we're bad boys, and we're going to come out here and we're going to show you how bad we are. There was a different mystique about them back in 2007. And I loved it more than I love this, although I respect both immensely.
Okay, did you love it more in 07 because Brady was throwing to a man who caught 23 touchdowns from him named Randy Moss, who was the greatest deep threat in pro football history?
Well, that obviously has something to do with it, Skip, because it's the show. It's the show. Like, for example, when I watch Brady, I marveled at his performance last week, but to me, Skip, you can appreciate this. Darren, you can appreciate this. It was a Kenny Stabler kind of performance to me last week. You know what I mean? Just picking you apart, systematically marching you downfield and just making one throw after another and just demoralizing you. In the case of Randy Moss, he was a show in and of himself. But he still, as great as he still wasn't Tom Brady. And it was just something special about watching that team that year. It's beautiful now, but it was really special in 2007. There was some special moments up in there, man. It really was.
By the way, Kenny Stabler could throw it to the other team on occasion, like a lot of times. But remember, Tom Brady this year has so far 12 touchdowns to one of the worst luck interceptions in the history of interceptions, where it's basically a catch by Edelman that gets bobbled into a pick six.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2007 through 6 games, he had 21 touchdowns. So 21-2. Now he's 16-1, which should be 16-0. I believe, going back to this past Super Bowl, Tom Brady has played the greatest quarterback of his career, including the Super Bowl. Is it Deflategate fueled? Yes, it is, I believe, because this guy can be a psycho competitor. And once he decided that these are bogus, trumped-up charges aimed at him, not at his head coach, not even at his owner, at him, then he said, okay, NFL, watch this. But he's having to do it now. And let's look at degree of difficulty. And I hit Stephen A. with this at the start of the show. I'm not going to read the names again. This is the most no-name, inexperienced offensive line in pro football. Exactly. There's one legit bona fide starter who used to be the right tackle, who had to move to left tackle. The center, the guts of this, the brains and guts, is an undrafted free agent rookie. Okay? Think about that. And the other guys haven't started much at all, and it's just mix and match. I don't know how they protect him at all. He's getting rid of the football faster than any other quarterback in the league. And to your point, we all appreciate Gronkowski, but there's no deep threat at all. Right. There's not one guy who can take the top off the defense. Right. There's no stretch player. Well, there's no threat at all. Everything is going to be mostly underneath, right? And there's going to be a lot of run after catch with it. Go ahead, Stephen A.
Well, Skip, and this is not so much of debate as it is a question for both you and Darren. Darren, because he's a Super Bowl champion. You, because you've been covering the sport for over 35 years. I will defer to y'all when I ask this question. You just acknowledged that Tom Brady gets rid of the football relatively quickly. And because he's so skilled at doing so, and New England's so skilled at this short precision passing offense, isn't it plausible that when you keep bringing up the offensive line, that, dare I say, it's not that big of a deal because you can't send the house to Tom Brady because you constantly have to look for the little dip and dunk play here or there? Look at what happened with Rob Gronkowski in that touchdown last year when the Patriots gave up the blitz on the left side from the New York Jets. They didn't even block them because Tom Brady knew that would leave Rob Gronkowski wide open. There was a play that they had manufactured during the game because they saw what the Jets were doing and they had that kind of switch up going on. I'm saying if you can't send the house at him because he's getting rid of the ball so quickly, then why make such a big deal
I think
about the offensive line that he's working with?
You know, I think that really speaks to his brilliance. I really do. I mean, exactly what you just said. It speaks to his brilliance because of this. When you have that open field, and they like to throw the ball, they're not going to run the ball consistently. They're going to throw the ball. What did they run the ball last week? 5 times?
Yeah, they just gave it up.
He is finding the mismatch that he wants to find. And he's seeing the entire defense. So when the defense gets lined up, he's finding he knows what defense they're in. And this is what speaks to the brilliance as a quarterback. You have to make a quick second decision. That decision has to come in and out, and the ball has to be out of your hands because you know that your offensive line can't protect.
Yeah.
So find the mismatch, go at that mismatch. Brady has been perfection. You just look at everyone else around the league. I looked at Matt Castle last week with my Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
There's mismatches, there's one-on-ones, but he can't find a one-on-one, nor can he pull the trigger to make the decision.
But Darren, here's what I'm asking you. Because of the brilliance of Tom Brady, his football IQ, isn't it plausible that guys are actually scared to rush after him?
Yeah.
Because you're constantly watching.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. So that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying when I talk to Skip about the offensive line and why it's not a big deal. Because you can't come at him the way people would normally come at him because he's so brilliant. You don't know when he's setting you up to come at him just so he could dip it to somebody else. But that's my point.
Okay, you're right. But to Darren's point, it's extremely difficult to see the mismatch pre-snap and execute it and make the right choice. Because if you guess wrong, if you read wrong, it's going to be going the other way, like Matt Castle was.
But not for him, not for somebody that's been around since 2000 and has played at an elite level for the last 10, 12, 14 years. It's not difficult for him. That's the point. You can't sit up there and go like this. Do you see how difficult that is? No, that's not. He knows what he wants to do. They're trying to figure out what Tom Brady is going to do. He is a complete master of his offense in New England. Most quarterbacks are not a master of their offense.
So, bottom line, you're saying you're not impressed with Tom Brady, correct?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Well, you're discounting what he's pulled off.
No, I'm saying to you, you need to stop bringing up the offensive line because it's really irrelevant when it comes to him.
He doesn't need an offensive line. He could do this without a line, right?
Right.
Just, they shouldn't even send a line out there. He should just go out there by himself.
You don't really need one.
You know?
He really doesn't need one.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
All right, Skip, do you want the good news or the bad news in Jerry's world?
Both.
Okay, the good news is Dez Bryant has returned to practice. Good, because I'm going to tell you both. And Jason Garrett says he's going to take it day by day. But if you're Joseph Randle, there's quite a bit of bad news. Randle officially lost his job as the Cowboys' starting running back to Darren McFadden and reportedly left the Cowboys facility yesterday. And now we've just learned on top of that, Randle is facing a possible suspension for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy, according to multiple league sources. Now, in February, Randle was arrested for unlawful possession of marijuana after police received a call for domestic violence with a weapon following an incident with him and the mother of his son. All right, so let's digest all of that. Former Cowboy Darren Woodson still here with us. And you're going to be inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor on Sunday. Congratulations on that. During halftime, we'll all be watching when they're playing Seattle. Yes, for sure. All right, with everything I just told you, what are the chances? What?
The head nod. I saw it.
You got the nod? Okay.
All
right, cool. What chance do you think the Cowboys will make the playoffs with everything that's going on?
Listen, I love my Cowboy Nation. And you know I do. Stephen A., you absolutely know I love my Cowboy Nation. But, going into, I think the chances of this, they have to win one of the next two games. They have to win either against Seattle or against the Philadelphia Eagles coming back. Because when you look at their schedule and what they have in front of them, they have Seattle this week, Philadelphia, Romo comes back against the Dolphins.
But they go to Tampa,
They
right?
go to Tampa.
Yeah, right.
I think that's a winnable game for them, even at Tampa.
And then at Miami.
Then at Miami, and Romo returns in. This team has to put at least 2 wins together before Romo gets there, because I still feel 9-7 wins the division. 9-7, 8-8, possibly 9-7 wins the division. But even when Romo comes back, you're still going to have a rusty Romo. He hasn't played a lot. And when he comes back, you still have the Dolphins. You have the Carolina Panthers, who are playing outside of themselves. Mm-hmm. The Green Bay Packers, you're at Green Bay.
Yeah.
It's dependent on them winning one of these next 2 games to find out if the Cowboys are a playoff team. I personally don't think they make the playoffs.
Mr. Smith, Cowboy lover that you are.
I did tell you that they'd probably be 3-6 after 9 games. Philadelphia and Seattle, not necessarily in that order. Seattle and Philadelphia up next, and then a road game at Tampa. You know, could they beat Philadelphia? Yeah, and then lose to Tampa, or they'll lose to Philadelphia and beat Tampa. It'll be one or the other. They're going to lose to Seattle this weekend. You can bet that. Don't even worry about that. You know, but then after that, you got Philadelphia, and you got Tampa. So, I mean, you know, what is there to say? I mean, it's really all about Romo. When are you getting back? When are you going to come back and save the day? In the case of Joseph Randle, obviously issues or allegations of domestic violence. That's something that we all have to take very, very seriously. We also have to, keep in mind also that it involved, the incident involved in question, supposedly, allegedly, a child was in attendance. A child saw some of that. So we have to concern ourselves with that. That's the serious part. You know me, I'm always going to laugh at the department store part. I don't even think it's fair for him to be in trouble for stealing in that particular situation. I don't think he was stealing. I think that he was trying to rescue himself. I think it was an uncomfortable situation when you're stealing cologne, okay, and a pair of drawers. I still can't get over that. I'm just sorry. You don't go to steal that. That ain't about stealing, y'all. That ain't about stealing.
Don't get us fired.
That's something else. That's something else. So I don't want that held against him. I'm Joseph Randle. I laugh at that. I mean, that's funny to me. You know what I'm saying? Because he was clearly trying to not get busted for something else. Something was wrong with that. But I ain't going to hold that against him. In the end, what it comes down to is this. None of this really, Skip Bayless, is an issue had you kept DeMarco Murray. Because what would have happened was you'd have had that offensive line with a running back who was reliable and they felt they could trust, chunking up yards the way Darren McFadden did last week against the pathetic Giants, defensive front seven. And as a result of that, you might not have this issue. But because you let go of DeMarco Murray, because you didn't want to come out of your pocket like an extra $3 or $4 million, this is what you get. You brought it on yourself. So, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys could still potentially win the division, but it's not looking good right now for anybody but me. Because not only do I get to laugh at the Dallas Cowboy fans, the worst fan base in America, by the way. The worst fan base in America. I'm not knocking the Cowboys. I'm talking about their fan base, the pathetic the sorry fan base that they are. Not only do I get to laugh at them, but I get to look at my man Skip every weekday morning. How you do, Skip? How you do? So it's going to, over the next 3 weeks, it's going to be a little bit rough for Skip. And I just want you to know I'm here, but I'm not, because I will be laughing.
So, for the record, the last 17 times the name Joseph Randle has come up on this show, he's gone into the same stand-up routine about Joseph and the department store. We've heard it 17 straight times.
Darren knows why I'm laughing.
Okay, so
Darren
that's
fine. That's just too hilarious.
That's
just too hilarious.
Okay. Now, back to Molly's original question. I am still hanging in with this team making the playoffs by default because, as Stephen A. just correctly pointed out, that pathetic, what did you call it, the Giants front seven? Pathetic front seven of the Giants. They have to travel to New Orleans this Sunday. That's a losable game.
There we go.
Okay, so again, I said after the game Sunday night, or Sunday, I was not impressed with the New York Football Giants. I was impressed with the Dallas Cowboy running game. I was very impressed with Darren McFadden. He started looking like SEC Arkansas McFadden, right? Okay. So I'm just saying that I am completely with you. If, in fact, they could win one of these two games, and to me it would almost have to, I'm with Stephen A. on this, it would almost have to be Philadelphia. Then somehow at Tampa Bay, probably no gimme, but go get that one. And then Romo comes back. Here are my X factor issues. If Dez is going to try to play this weekend, is that surgery going to hold? Because he's way ahead of schedule. Kevin Durant needed 2 more procedures before his finally took. And a lot of them do. You have to go back in. So is he rushing it for what? I don't know what. Is he in shape now? Is he going to hurt something else? You'd be the first to attest to this. It's highly possible. Tony Romo, he's broken the same collarbone twice. Can he take a hit when he comes back? I don't know. I just don't love any other team in this division enough to say it's over right now. And by the way, this man I'm looking at right here, Stephen A. Smith, he said very recently on this show he pretty much fears that the Cowboys will make the playoffs. That's the last time we brought this up. Yes, he did.
Well, I wouldn't use the word fear.
Well, that's how it came across to me.
What I said. Well, I mean, it always comes across. Anything that feeds your point, you understand, comes across good to you. You omit 1,000 other things that doesn't buffer your point. No surprise there. But the point is that the Dallas Cowboys, when Tony Romo comes back and they're 3-6, that's what they'll be after 9 games. Tony Romo will have 7 games to right the ship. All they'll have to do to win the division is go about 6-1. That's all. And, it's clearly possible that is something that they could do. And I wish them luck. I do. Because I'm not a fan. I just don't see it.
I'll just be a realist about that. I mean, Tony Romo's missed, 4 games at this point. He comes back. He's going to be rusty. It's not like he's going to come back and be on point like he was at the beginning of the season. He's going to have some rust. So you have to put in the fact that they're going to be playing the Dolphins, who are playing well again, the Carolina Panthers, the Green Bay Packers. These aren't slouch teams. Yeah. Even with a healthy Tony Romo and a healthy Dez, it's hard to say they're going to win those games.
Darren, I'm just trying to be nice.
I know you're trying to be nice.
Skip a little bit hope.
We don't need you to be nice.
I'm just trying to do that for y'all. I mean, I know y'all in trouble. You know what's so funny too is watching. Y'all don't just lose. Y'all are the Cowboys, so you fall apart. Randall's in trouble. He might be suspended. Dez might come back a little bit too early. I shouldn't say nothing about Dez because that's my man. I love Dez. But I mean, he might come back too early. Tony Romo on the sideline looking all depressed like he just wants to rip off the sling and come to the rescue. Greg Hardy, the dysfunctionality that exists within the Cowboys. It's kind of cute to watch. I must admit that. It's its own sitcom. It's just beautiful to see. I mean, why spend time watching some of these shows? What do I need to watch Scandal for? What do I need to watch The Blacklist for? Why do I need to watch these shows?
I got 3 quick responses to what you just said. All your laughter, your bogus, trumped up laughter.
Whatever.
I got 3 points. I got pathetic Giants front 7. I got Sam Badford, and I got Kirk Cousins. I'm just leaving those out there, okay?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Skip, you have a shot. Hold down hope. I want you to hold down hope.
All right, let's leave it there.
By the way,
we got to go to break. Yes.
By the way, Molly, there is like a sitcom. It's not a sitcom, it's a show. Yeah. Ain't it called Dallas? Ain't it called Dallas on TNT? Is that still on the air? It was a good show. All they need to do is add some of the cast of the Cowboys. It'll be a hit.
Next, Molly.
It'll be a hit.
Can somebody turn him off?
We'll use Kevin however he wants to be used. I told you Kevin is going to be our main focus. He's going to have a hell of a season. He's going to get back to that all-star status, and he's the focal point of us offensively. I know I can go out and get mine when I need it, but I need Kev to be, as aggressive as he was tonight. And when he rebounds at the level that he did tonight, then the shots will automatically fall for him. I knew he'd be sharp when I had my conversation with him in Los Angeles in off-season.
Stephen A., what do you make of it? LeBron's thoughts on Love. He had a good game last night.
Well, I think that the level of appreciation that LeBron has for him now clearly wasn't always there. And being the class act that he can be when he wants to be, he remembered that there was a time that he may not have appreciated Kevin Love as much as he should have until the finals arrived. And when the finals arrived and you didn't have Kevin Love to hit from the outside and you had to, relegate yourself to relying on a J.R. Smith or an Iman Shumpert to hit shots from the outside, I think the appreciation for Kevin Love elevated exponentially. We have to remember something here. Everybody keeps looking at Mozgov and Tristan Thompson and all of this other stuff with LeBron. If you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, it actually is possible because of the versatility of LeBron to have Tristan Thompson in the game at the same time you have Kevin Love. Because Tristan Thompson can crash the boards and he can defend. And the fact that he can do those two things effectively can free Kevin Love up to be out on the floor with him. You don't have to choose one or the other sometimes. You can actually play them together because of the versatility that LeBron James brings to the equation. And I think LeBron James realizes because of that loss in the finals to the Golden State Warriors, that this is a guy whose value can end up being immeasurable on this team with me on the floor with him, because I can get him the ball, and more importantly, I can get him open shots. And if there's one thing that Kevin Love can do, he can make some open shots from the perimeter and beyond the three-point line, as he showed last night, and even before to some degree against Chicago in the opener. Kevin Love can shoot that basketball. He's no superstar, but he is no scrub. He can play this game, and he can help Cleveland win a championship, and LeBron knows that. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but what I'm not buying is LeBron's trying to talk about Kevin Love as if he's some kind of Kevin Durant, and he's just not. No. He's trying to talk Kevin Love into being worth the $113 million extension that they just gave him, and he will never be. And I'm going to remind you that last year, 16 times Kevin Love was not played in the fourth quarter, sat the bench for the entire fourth quarter, because David Blatt's saying, I don't love this. I would rather go with Tristan or whoever else has a hot hand at that point in the fourth quarter. So remember, LeBron would even tweeted last year about his frustration with Love, or maybe it was motivation for Kevin Love. And I get it, because, listen, the shocker of the night in the NBA last night is that the Cavaliers playing back-to-back on the road 30. At Memphis, they win by 30 points, and LeBron was only required to play 31 minutes with 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. And Kevin Love had an okay game. He had 13 rebounds, 17 points. Okay, that's fine. I get it, But again, he needs them, but he's not going to be an all-star on this team. I'm sorry. Yeah, but he's an all-star. But he's an all-star for LeBron with what LeBron wants to do, because of what he needs him to do. That's the difference here.
The Mets are in a big hole, down 2-0 to the Royals. Skip, are they done?
Stephen A. Smith, in your baseball brilliance, you kept telling me pitching wins. Yet I just watched the Royals beat Matt Harvey / Familia, then rough up DeGrom. I'm sorry, they are done. I'm not going to go there yet, but I don't blame you for feeling that way. Cespedes is batting 100. Daniel Murphy's only 2 for 9 after a 10 and went 0 for 4 last night. Conforto doesn't have a hit in the World Series. It's a disaster right now. They can't manufacture runs, and that's the problem. But they still have a chance. I believe Syndergaard can help bring them back. They got to win Game 3.
Game 3 tomorrow in Queens. Hey, it was fun. Again, as always, guys, thank you to Kareem for joining us, and Pierre Garçon is here tomorrow. Have a great night.
Go Brady.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Catch First Take weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern and catch the re-air at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
The Giants began the season 0-2, while the Saints were 0-3. Both have only lost once since. This Sunday, they go head-to-head at the Superdome. Touchdown! Coverage begins at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.